Well, hello everyone, and here we are again for our regular Wednesday lives. Now, today we've got quite an interesting situation because in the green room, all of a sudden, Ed couldn't hear me. So it'd be really great if you can tell me in the sidebar if you can all hear me. If someone could just comment, yes, I can hear you, and you can see us all up on screen. All good. Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. So you can see and hear me. And when Ed speaks, can you hear him? So, hi, Ed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hopefully you can hear Ed as well. Yes, brilliant. Okay, everyone can hear us.
Hooray.
So we've had to do a little bit of a very, very clever technical arrangement here where Ed is hearing me through the phone, and you are all hearing me and Ed live on the broadcast. So this is a first, but we made it work, and that's all. We have no idea why the actual Ed can't hear the sound or my sound in his studio. But anyway, we are resilient and we bend like trees.
We got it sorted.
And we found a fix that's working, so that's brilliant. So welcome, Ed. Welcome to, this is the penultimate broadcast of Series 1 of the Pure Talks. We've done, I think now, about 16, I think. And they've been brilliant, and we've had such a good time. We've had some amazing guests, and we're very happy to have you here with us now. So Ed is born in Hastings. Am I right in saying that?
No. Born in Southend.
Born in Essex.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I wasn't there very long though. I moved to near Peterborough, Cambridgeshire, for a long time, and have been down in Hastings since year 2000. So.
Right, so a good 20. You're a 20-year. Did you? Have they stopped calling you down from Peterborough yet? Then.
Yeah, but we often talk about how there's still a difference between people who are really Hastings born and bred, and people like me who've only been here 20 years. You know, friends of ours who went to school here and have been here forever. There's still a certain difference.
Yeah, we're still blow-ins, aren't we? We're still blow-ins.
Yeah. So you're not from the area initially.
I'm from Kent.
Right.
So I was born and brought up in Kent, but Hastings was definitely a big part of my growing up. So I used to come down, obviously, to the seaside here when I was a little girl, and I would come to the bonfires in Battle. When excellent. I went to school later in my, so 16 plus, I went to school in Tunbridge. So I had a lot of friends who were Hastings, and so yeah, Hastings and where I live now, Battle, have always been part of kind of my life, but I didn't live here. And so I still feel a little bit of an outsider, even with that, you know, that they were a big part of my life. And and I'm a town councillor now as well, and I'm still struggling to feel part of it. But I don't know about you, but I don't think I've never been happier than when I've lived here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I absolutely love it. And living here has been the best thing ever. It's been the best place I've ever lived. I'm not being negative about people. Locals being that they're not negative towards us at all, but there's just a certain difference when you talk to people and they just have all these connections with Hastings going back to primary school, and there's just still a certain difference. You know, people within our little friendship group who have been here forever talk about different things. They've got different connections. They still know things that we don't know. They still say surprising things about Hastings and its history and locality. So there's still a certain difference, even if you've been here 20 years.
Absolutely. And And as you say, I never feel that anyone's kind of being negative towards me. It's never that. It's just, it's just a difference. You've got pluses and minuses on both sides. But what I do love is the in this corner of southeast England is the absolute I'll get the word out, proliferation of artists, and such talented artists as well. I've never lived anywhere with so many talented people within literally, and I know we're not allowed to do this right now, but within touching distance of so many incredibly talented people. I've lived, so as I say, I was born in Kent, and then I spent a good 10, 15 years in Buckinghamshire, where I owned my own art gallery. And I really, I didn't really ever understand this thing about, having too many artists to choose from. It was always like I had to go out and seek them. And I spent a lot of time going out seeking the artists and kind of picking them. But as soon as I moved down here, I was just awash. And they're so talented. They're not average in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic community to be part of. Yeah, I totally agree.
And so diverse as well, because when I was writing up your piece ready for today, it's artist, poet, writer. Talk me through that. How did that all happen? Where did that all begin?
Well, I've always worked with pictures and words and music, but kind of the visual art was always the main thing. That's what I studied at college. I did printmaking in college, and that was always the core of it. But did an MA in illustration. And from that, of course, my work is all about narrative. So there's always words emerging out of the artwork and coming up with words that relate to the artwork. So there's always words and pictures going on at the same time, absolutely all the time. And for many years, it was all about kind of stories and trying to write the kind of perfect children's story. And then in recent years, it's got much more kind of about poetry and writing for children. And I think I'm quite naturally more inclined, feel more comfortable in the world of poetry than stories. But of course, because I decided that a couple of years ago, and I kind of made a kind of decision to focus on poetry and stop writing stories, it's almost inevitable that I've been really involved in kind of writing stories for the past few months, and have got completely immersed in trying to write some children's stories and adapting folk tales for Hastings Museum and things. So I'm kind of completely immersed in kind of prose story writing again, even though I decided to kind of give that up a couple of years ago. It's the way things go. That's what I'm completely involved in at the moment. And then
isn't that funny? It's funny how that happens in lockdown, that it kind of, we recalibrate and suddenly we're doing something we never imagined we would.
Yeah. Because I think it's so difficult to write a brilliant story. I think poetry obviously has its own kind of massive challenges, but with a poem it can be a glimpse of anything. It can be just a little moment in time, a little thought, a little transitory glimpse of reality you can have in a poem. In a story, it really has to work as a story and be satisfying with a beginning, middle and end and all that kind of stuff, which I find like I find that really difficult to try and write a really satisfying story. I find a lot harder than writing poems. and drawing
folklore.
pictures.
I love that whole idea. Yeah, I love that whole idea of folklore and how you reinterpret the folklore, especially with what we know now, with the Enlightenment period that we're going through now. How we reinterpret those folklore. So you've been working with Hastings Museum on that.
Well, yeah, they gave me. They're doing a series of educational videos, and they gave me quite a broad brief and just invited proposals. So I kind of chose, because it interests me, I chose to look at things they had in the museum and find folk tales that related to things in the museum or in the local area. So I kind of chose to take it in that direction. They gave everyone quite a broad brief, but because I'm kind of obsessed with Irish folk tales, which often relate to the sea, and we've got a lot of sea here. So
we certainly do.
Yeah. So I rewrote the I think the kind of biggest, most famous Irish folk tale, I think, or Irish myth, which is the story of Tir na Nog. I hope I pronounced it right. The kind of island of eternal youth where you never grow old. And it's this kind of heavenly island just over the horizon.
Also known as Hastings, I believe.
Yeah. So I retold that story, and I retold a story called The Three Birds, where someone kind of listens to these three magical birds, and he thinks he's just kind of been listening to this amazing bird song for kind of a few hours, but it turns out that kind of 200 years have passed while he's been listening to this bird song, which I just find such a haunting idea.
Again, life in Hastings.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's so much synergy.
Yeah.
It's funny because I know your work. The bird symbol is something that you do. Is recognisable, and the boats and the boy in the boat. I think are symbols that I regularly see. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share your website up on. I'll share the screen with your website, and then people can see your website going on here, and then we can put a bit of the. And you can talk people through.
So I can't see it at the moment.
Can you not? You can't see that.
It's going round and round.
It's coming.
Thingy's going round and round.
It's coming.
There it is.
Yay! So there you are. That's Ed's website. And what I've done for everybody else, I mean, this is lovely. We can look at this on the screen now and just talk through a bit of it. But for everyone else, there's a little green button at the bottom of the screen that says visit Ed's website. So if you want to go off and have a look at it in your own time, then just click on that button and you can have a good scroll through of Ed's website. But yeah, so we can see here the boy, just on your home screen, you've got the boy in the boat. Dolphins keep me safe in dreams. Yeah. And is that a story, or?
That's one of my stories that I have. It's a picture book that I've self-published. Sometimes they are done with publishers, but that's a self-published story that I've done. Or it's a poem that it's a kind of narrative poem, and it is about someone who goes off on a little boat and visits all these incredible islands when they're kind of terrified of going to sleep at night. So it's actually really inspired by, again, the Celtic sea voyage journeys, but my really personal take on it. I think if you click on the cover, you should go to the page.
Okay, so here now.
You should go to the page for the book.
There we are. Dolphins keep me safe.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got a bit about what it is. Oh, there we are. So there is the bit of the.
Yeah, and
poem.
So it's quite. That's one. that's a real one that I really love. It was kind of one that was a bit of a step on from things I'd done before.
So that's kind of the basis with what you've been doing at Hastings Museum, with using a folklore and reinterpreting it.
Yeah. I mean, Dolphins Keep Me Safe in Dreams is not. It's not an existing folktale. It's completely my story, but it is inspired a lot by Celtic Sea Voyage journeys, whereas my version of Tia and O is the original story, but just my version of it.
Right.
But yeah, Dolphins Keep Me Safe in Dreams. I did it, I think, in 2014, and but it's one of the books that I self-published that kind of crossed over a little bit, in that it got kind of reviewed by some national publications and things, and got a bit. It kind of broke out of the kind of small self-published world a little bit. And I've reprinted it and things. So
I think that's probably one of the first things I became aware of you doing.
Yeah.
And that motif, that very much the boat motif, and then very much aware of the birds being part of the graphic that you often use as well. Have you? I mean, we can unshare this now. What we can do is we can keep it up, but we can keep us back up on the screen, because I can see behind you one of the actual drawings of the owl, which is on one of these. I think that's up here, isn't it? Let's go back up here.
Yeah.
So this one.
That is. Yeah. Oh no, it's
Oh, there.
I mean, I've got everything here. I can kind of.
Yeah, that'd be so cool for you. Yeah, that'd be lovely. So what I'll do is I'll stop sharing.
That one, strange. I mean, this is my kind of board where I put kind of rough prints up and things. I had to do. I had a little commission from a friend to redo this, so that it. Weirdly enough, there's a child of a friend of my, or a child who was raising money for the school of a friend of mine by playing the trumpet, and he was busking in the street, and he had made all this money for the PTA, and the PTA asked me to make a present for him because he loved owls, but he also played the trumpet. So in this one, whoops, I think I can. Are you going to
Don't break anything. Don't break anything.
Oh, do you know what? It's a really rough proof. In this one, there's a little. You can see the. You see the trumpeter?
Yes.
The guy playing the trumpet. So I did a new version of it with the owl, because he loves owls and goes to a owl sanctuary. But I thought it was quite nice, this trumpet player.
Yeah, that's super cool. How lovely is that?
Yeah. So that.
So yeah, we all kind of go off on little tangents like that, don't we? And and lockdown has been a great thing for taking us off on tangents. I seem to be doing broadcasting every Wednesday. As a tangent.
I'm just going to put this back so there's.
Do.
Or else there's a big kind of gap that's gonna. The gap is going to annoy me.
Yeah. Oh.
There we go.
You have the OCD like me.
A little bit. I don't like open doors or open cupboards. So my youngest son will torture me by just leaving cupboards open in the kitchen at dinner time.
What about unmade beds? I can't abide unmade beds.
That's fine. No.
Oh, you're all right with an unmade bed?
No, I'm not tidy. It's very particular things.
Yeah. Our children have a way of torturing us like that. So it'd be really lovely to have a bit of a look around your studio. That'd be super cool.
Right.
If you can do as a. I know that's.
I haven't done any sort of tidying. From the
good, you're coming.
There we go. I'll try and do this quite nicely. So I have a really small space, and I've got a kind of office area down here.
Okay.
Is this making sense?
Yeah, yeah. So we can see the laptop. Yeah, with your office area.
I have lots of nostalgic things here.
Oh, noddy. Noddy.
Things collected from the beach.
We love looking around people's studios to see the ephemera that people keep. Oh, there's another car. You've got another car in there.
That's Charlie's Angels van, about 45 years old. And that's a box that I made with my granddad when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
I keep all my bits and bobs in. There's me. And then, so yeah, I'm hoping to get a new studio and building one in the garden at the moment.
Oh, hang on, we've lost. There we are. We've lost you a bit.
Right.
So you look like you've got some sort of tools hanging up.
Here we go.
Behind you.
Yeah.
The printmaker's tool.
Yeah. There we go. Right. So what we have here is my printmaking, and I was looking at this a while ago, and I was kind of a little bit proud of how kind of mean I've been with spending any money. The shelves are from an old bed. The table. Can we see the table?
Not quite. There we are. There's the table.
No. The table. The table is an old door with.
Oh, I can see that now. Yeah.
Into a table. Yeah. My press itself. I wonder if we can see my press. It's quite awkward. My press. We can see. My press it's not a printing press, it's an old machine used for bending metal that Lee Dyer found for me.
Good old Lee, the man of metal.
Yeah, which cost about £60 compared to several £1,000s for a similar sized press. This is. Where are we? Let's try and do this. That's an illustration.
There's the bird, isn't it?
The 3 birds story that I was talking about. That might become a lino print. So yeah.
So mainly are you working with linos? Is it mainly lino prints that you do?
Yeah, in terms of the printmaking, the things for galleries,
yes,
I do a lot of lino printing. With the books, I used a lot of. Just going to put you back on the stand. There we go. Right.
We're back.
There we go. We're back, and it's So I do lots of work. I also use mixed media for lots of illustrations and things. I'm working on. I might just grab another one.
So the lino cuts is predominantly you're doing those for pictures to sell in galleries.
Well, yes, but sometimes I have been asked to use the lino print style for illustration jobs. I'm just looking.
I love it because it is very liney, isn't it? It's got very textural and very liney. Beautiful marks that come.
Well, when I was at college, I was doing a lot of etching, and the tutors kind of made the comment that it was often a bit faffy, you know, like I'd have
technical term, faffy.
Yeah, you know, like I'd have kind of 10 lines when one line should be due, like it would all a bit sort of scrappy and a bit.
Where did you go? Where did you do your MA? Whereabouts were you doing your MA?
I did my MA at St Martin's in London, but I did my degree before that in Hull, and both in Hull in different ways. Yeah, which was great.
You have gravitated around the coastline, haven't you? You must like water.
Yeah, really do. I mean, my grandparents are from Lowestoft in Suffolk, so we were there a lot when I was a kid. And yeah, so Hull. We were in Brighton for a little while as well. So yeah, definitely the coast.
Water, being near water is your thing. And it features
Absolutely.
so much in your work. Yeah, so sorry, distracted slightly. They said that too many marks.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Water is, you know, it's everything, you know. The sea.
It's the giver of
I
life.
love the sea. Absolutely, but also the kind of still pools, you know, mean an awful lot to me too. You know, like the places like Barn Pond up on the country park and the ponds in Alexandra Park.
Yeah,
these kind of still expanses of water, I think, are just completely profound things, you know, that relate to kind of.
I can see that in your work. I can see now you're saying that. Now, you know, you can see how you've gravitated around the coastline with your personal journey, but you can see that in your work, in the mark making, how that environment would resonate with you, because you can see it in everything that you do.
Yeah. Oceans, seas and forests. You know, the forest is incredibly important as well. But yeah, I was just going to show you, because you mentioned about using lino in illustration work.
Yeah.
I did this book quite recently,
Moonstruck. Yeah, I saw that on your website. I think you've got that one on your website as well, haven't you?
Yeah, which was with a lovely publisher called Otterbarry, edited by Roger Stevens, who is a Brighton-based poet and editor. But yeah, I used lino to illustrate the poems.
Yeah, I was going to
this is all lino style. Well,
I was going to share if I share the screen again, we can see it actually everyone can see that on your, there we are. So there we go. That's the poems about our moon. And again, you see, like, it's the pools, isn't it? A pool of light. Can you see that?
Yeah. But yeah, I was really.
Yeah.
I can now. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Now. But yeah, it's a beautiful. It was a lovely job to do, because it's a collection. There's lots of modern poets, but it's you know, there's things by Yeats and Longfellow and all sorts, as well as the modern poets. So it was, you know, a wonderful thing to do.
I can see one here in the middle with it looks like a dog as well. And I love that the boy on the moon with the is that a cat looking down? Again, something this one on the bottom right of the block of 6 that we're looking at. Again, using that motif. Is that based on your own children?
Well, yeah, I mean, the child is, I mean, I've been drawing my own kids for a long time. So I suppose the child is probably sort of a bit of a mix of me and my own kids. But yeah, the poem is an old poem by Amy Lowell, The Crescent Moon, this child who floats above the forest on the crescent moon. So it's a beautiful image. And
how, because you said that this has been done through a publisher, how did that happen? How did they how does that process work when you get commissioned?
This one, there's a bit of, you know, one thing leads to another. This kind of strange way things happen. I was self-publishing my own stuff. Through that, I'd got a relationship with the Poetry Library at the Royal Festival Hall. So I was going up there and doing performances now and again for different events that they did, but all based on my self-published things. And then when I was doing that, and I met Brian Moses, who's a well-known local children's poet who really liked my stuff and liked my illustration style. I started illustrating for him. and then did something for him and Roger Stevens, a different book, through the publisher. And then Roger Stevens had this idea for this book that he says was kind of partly inspired by wanting to do something with my illustration style, which was really nice. So yeah, it's kind of like one thing leads to another, and the inevitable thing where you can kind of spend ages kind of sending off things and approaching people and getting nowhere, and then you have a bit of luck through someone you know, and which works 10 times better than all the kind of hard work you've put into approaching people. So it's kind of like one thing leads to another.
Yeah, it's all the hours we spend on social media thinking that we've got to make all these connections and become a major influencer, and we spend hours trying to send press releases out, but actually what we need to do is build relationships, proper robust relationships with people, because that's what
absolutely true.
Yeah, if you spend just your time focusing on building relationships with just one or two people, they are likely to lead to that kind of thing.
You're
much more likely.
But you're completely right. But I am not for a minute setting myself up as someone who is good at that, because I'm terrible. I'm a real hermit. It's a kind of ongoing thing that I'm not a great kind of communicator, because I'll kind of communicate quite well and have these relationships with people, and then I'll kind of just disappear into my studio and focus on what I'm doing, and so I'm not brilliant at it. I'm not setting myself up as someone who's good at doing the business side of things, because
you clearly did it well in this instance, because it paid off. Are any of us, we're all just trying to get along, do our thing, and what I think one of the biggest things that has become apparent to me as through this journey of doing these broadcasts and chatting to people is how important it is just to maintain some good quality relationships. There's a guy called Dunbar who did some research into this, and he said, quite a long time ago, Robin Dunbar, I think his name was, someone will correct me if I'm wrong, and he said that you can only actually maintain 5 close friendships, relationships at any one time. 5, that's it. Good quality, robust relationships, and then it goes up in batches of like 10 and 15, so you can have on top of that, you can have 10 that are relatively good, in your next circle, up to an absolute maximum of 150. And once you go past 150 in that general acquaintance level, there's no way you can maintain those. So this idea on social media of needing to have 20,000 followers is actually disproved by science, that if we just focus on the important ones and just do what we can. So like you're saying, you're a bit of a hermit. Most artists are. Most artists feel privileged to do their job and just want to get on with doing what they do. Actually, you only need to do it with 5 people. You're okay. I've given you permission. 5 people, that's it.
Absolutely. Yes. But I think sometimes I'm not great even with those 5 people.
With the 5.
I think... I think it's really important that it's real, so when you have, obviously you have kind of personal friendships, but when you have a relationship with a gallery, I genuinely think the people who run the galleries that I have a relationship with are absolutely amazing. They're absolutely brilliant. I really love their choice of work. They work so hard to keep these galleries going, and the publishers as well. I genuinely think they're amazing, and
they're all part of the critical cycle. I've been talking a lot about this circular economy, especially because of the thing that Matthew Burrows, so obviously local boy Matthew Burrows from although not kind of a bit like us, a bit of a blow-in, came in with his partner Liz. But he set up that circular economy of, you know, artists supporting artists with the Artist Pledge. Yeah. And I think that will have a place in the whole gamut of things that are available to artists going forward. I don't see that, you know, disappearing as we ease out of lockdown. But it's really important to recognise, as you've just said, that galleries have a place and do a really good job, that art fairs have a place, that publishers have a place, that, you know, everybody has their critical place in this cycle to make it all work, and we all need to work together at that if we want to have integrity and maintain the essence of ourselves. So, you know, the essence of an artist is that they work a lot in isolation. They like to be on their own, because it helps them get into flow. So they need the galleries and they need the publishers, and to recognise that actually, there's always exceptions to every rule. There's some that don't. There's some artists that don't want to be isolated and don't want to be on their own. But on the most part, we have to be respectful of everybody in that chain and say that I know, because I've done it, how hard a job it is to run an art gallery and how exhausting it is and how expensive.
And it's really expensive. Absolutely, yeah. So I have, you know, I really don't have any complaints about galleries taking a hefty commission at all. You know, it's just part of it, and you just have to factor it into what you do.
Price it in.
Yeah, absolutely. If it kind of goes over 50%, and I think, you know, if they're taking more than half,
balance of energy,
that's a bit much. Yeah, but 50-50, you know, and because I want people to see the actual physical object as well, like, you know. So I think galleries do an amazing job. But with what you were saying about creative flow. It is kind of this balance, isn't it? Because I can't make work and kind of multitask. You know, I need to shut the door and ignore people and ignore emails and all that stuff. And I can't do that thing that seems to be kind of part of our culture or part of our world at the moment, of kind of responding to things immediately, whatever you're doing. Do you know what I mean? And you get a text, you get a message, and the expectation sometimes seems to be like, you need to, you know, just reply straight away. And it's just like, if I start doing that and I start responding to messages coming in, you know, things just,
we call those we call those energy vampires.
Right, yeah.
Because they steal your energy away, and you hadn't consciously decided you wanted to give your energy to that at the moment. You wanted to give your energy to what you're doing. And the internet and social media and emails and everything are energy vampires. They suck the energy out of you, and suddenly you find that you're unconsciously sleepwalking into doing something you didn't want to do.
Yeah. So the sensible grown-up the sensible grown-up adult thing to do is to have an allotted time, you know, where after 3 o'clock I will respond to all the emails. So the sensible grown-up thing to do is to have a special time for your admin and keep to it, or make sure however you do it, to have a sensible couple of hours to do that every day. I've never done that.
I was going to say, are you sensible? I'd hate someone to call me sensible.
No. But, you know, anyway.
But you are absolutely right. It is, I suppose what that is, I mean, time management is a massive thing, isn't it? And managing our time in a busy world. What I found during lockdown is that I've had a lot more time to be more reflective, and I have tried to put in place processes, and I've signed up for things like management systems online, so that I can go, okay, I might not be able to be sensible, because heaven forbid anyone ever said I was sensible. That would really kill my soul. But I can try and consciously decide how unsensible I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So I can have some time to get into flow, because I'm like you. So I do a lot of writing. When I'm writing, I need to close the door. People in my household know this now. They go, oh, door's closed. And you'll see someone come and open the door, kind of peep through, shove in some food. It's like being in a prison.
Yeah.
They shove in some food and they apologise as they're going back. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't try and have any conversation with me, because my brain is flowing with this bit of information. And if you stop me, I've got to restart the whole creative process again. So they do know that. Absolutely. And that's, I think that really resonates with creatives.
Yeah, the sort of way your brain's, I don't know if you're the same, but the way my brain works when I'm trying to get the nitty gritty of getting a paragraph to work, I find that is like the most intense thought out of anything that I do, really. You're just sort of trying to move these words around so it really, really works. And that is just like 100% concentration. You can't
and
have
it's
music
painful,
on,
isn't it? No.
Yeah, when you... Yeah.
It's no music, no sound at all. My husband finds that really difficult to understand. But I said, I know I've made the breakthrough when I feel I want to cry. And sometimes I have to take it for a walk. Sometimes I have to go, no, I'm going to have to leave that there. I'm going to have to take it for a walk and go out and take the dog for a walk. Or I have to go for a shower and get water gushing over my head and completely switch off. And then when I'm in the middle of doing that with a phone, I have to have the quite near the shower, not in the shower, clearly. But I know in the middle, once it gets to that point, in the middle of that creative process, once I've detached from it and I've gone for the walk or I'm in the shower, all of a sudden it's like a light bulb. It just goes, and I'm like, right, I need to get to a piece of paper, or I need to voice note this. Now this is what I've been searching for. Do you have that?
Yeah, I think everyone's different. I mean, when I'm making something, when I'm writing something, there's certain points where I can leave it alone, where it's kind of like, right, I had to get that bit done, but now I can move on from it. But I needed to climb that particular mountain before I could get up and do anything.
It does feel like a mountain sometimes.
Yeah, and then it's okay. I don't have to finish it. I find I run a lot. I like going out for a run to kind of clear my head and escape and then come back to it. But and also different art forms. I think one of the nice things about being involved in different things is there's different bits. There's different stages in the process that demand a different type of thinking. So when I'm grappling with getting the words just right to a paragraph in something or a verse, then that's just like complete concentration, and it's amazing because there's nothing else in the universe apart from those words, and it's like 100% concentration. But it's very intense. It's quite pressured just to get that right. I was doing that this morning, which is probably why I'm going on about it. But then there's other stages in the process, beautiful things that
you're trying to think of them now. What's the beautiful bits?
No, I'm trying to think of. I have this weird thing, this memory block with literally the most famous artist in the country. The guy just did. Dresses up as a woman.
Grayson Perry. Grayson Perry. Love Grayson Perry. We love Grayson Perry.
Absolutely. And he was on his show recently. He was making this incredible sculpture where he was gluing on all these bits of drift onto this incredible sculpture. And he was just listening to music, I think, and just that sort of incredibly therapeutic, repetitive aspect of it, which is just
Yes, it was
complete
his
pleasure.
Mr. Measles, wasn't it? It was his Mr. Measles.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he was
what's
doing.
his
I
name?
remember, and he said he doesn't. There's
Alan
bits of it.
Measles.
Alan Measles, that's him.
That's it.
Alan Measles. Yeah.
And so when you're lino printing, and cutting out the lino, that's just pure joy. Sticking on the music and watching something on telly, half watching something on telly.
Just be careful with that, though, because those implements are very dangerous. Let's word of caution to anybody out there who's going to do lino cutting and put music on and half watching the telly. Those one slip and Ed's in the hospital.
I think I'm all right with it now. I have sort of scalpeled my finger a few times, but
I've managed to go straight into the middle of my kind of palm a couple of times with
I've had more near things than actual injuries, but
Funnily enough, I learned to lino cut on a course at Hastings Museum. That's the very first place with Fiona. She's got the very long name beginning with a P.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to.
Is it Piankowski?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went. Same as the children's illustrator, Piankowski. Similar anyway. She's great.
She's brilliant, and I took my daughter along, and she was running a course at Hastings Museum, and we did lino cuts, and then we ended up in I think we ended up in Becky McRae's studio out the back of Common Road at the time for one session, and we loved it. I love, because now I work with artists, I always think it's important. I don't want to be, brilliant at it, but I think it's so important that I understand the processes that people go through. Otherwise, I can't properly help them as a mentor and as a coach. I can't properly help them, and I also can't, as a gallerist at times, as a curator at times, I can't properly talk about the work if I haven't actually physically at least had one or two goes at doing that myself. And mine was
brilliant.
So I've had a go pretty much at everything now.
I think that's a great thing to do, a great attitude to have about the artists that you work with. I think that's fantastic.
I think hopefully it shows that I'm invested in what they do. I need to understand what they do. A lot of the things to be an artist and to be a successful artist, depending on what successful looks like to you, they're pretty much the same for anyone. A lot of my background is all about brain science and neuroscience and a lot of that and psychology. And, a lot of the being a successful anything is the same as being a successful anything else. A lot of the processes are the same. But I have found that a printmaker's psychology is quite different to a photographer's psychology. And a photographer's psychology is quite different to a sculptor's psychology. And by actually physically doing it, I can understand why. Because there is a process that goes on. So no, she was brilliant, and we had a great time. I love Hastings Museum, and I loved doing that in that environment. It was contextual. We're very contextual, aren't we, creatures? We're very contextual creatures.
I'd be really interested in particularly about the difference between in general, obviously the differences that a photographer might have to.
Hang on. I'm just going to grab a book.
Okay.
I wrote, going off with my head slightly back over here. So I wrote this book called "What's the Story?"
Oh, lovely.
Still got a few copies left. We've sold thousands. Oh, I can't tell you what war I went into with the publisher because I wanted a plain. Our colour is purple, and purple is a very positive colour. So I wanted a plain purple cover for the book with just saying what's the story. Oh, they told me it would never sell. No one will ever pick that book up. We're not going to do it. And I had a war with them. Anyway, it's had at least 2 reprints. So Yeah. So I was proved right.
Yeah.
That is artists talking about being printmaking, and that's when I realised that there was a type of person who there was a thread about the kind of personality tendencies that a printmaker had. And I spoke to Michael Barrett. Do you know Michael Barrett? Very well known. He was president of the RE, the Royal Etchers. So I spoke to him and Anita Klein and all sorts of. I mean, there's all sorts of people in this book. Trevor Price again, another well-known, and Ali Stubb. Yeah, so loads of people in there, and that's what triggered in my mind. I was like, I can see that there's a kind of set of personality tendencies that I'm seeing through the thread of interviewing these people that they loved. They were even more wanting to be in the process and flow and attention to detail. And I was like, so is that generally artists or is that just printmakers? So then I went and did a whole series of conversations. So I do life story interviewing with photographers, and there was a thread, but it was a different thread of tendencies. Those kind of people, they were because they stand behind a lens.
Okay, yeah.
And so there was a slight detachment from them and whereas with printmakers, they were very intense. So I need to get on with this project and do more.
An interesting thing to me is also thinking about film and moving image, because I have, ever since I kind of really got obsessed with making art when I was kind of 16, 17. This isn't sort of denigrating filmmakers at all, but to me, it's always about the still image and having an image that you move around. The image isn't moving around for you. You are daydreaming into the picture, and you're doing the movement. Your brain is doing the movement. And I've got like massive total admiration for filmmakers, but I don't want the images to be moving. I don't want to create things where that movement is happening for you. It's all about having something still and you move around the image, and photography. So that's just about me. It's my sort of
but that's what embeds in
inclination,
that's your tendencies that fulfills what is right for you. That's your being in your own, staying in your own integrity and doing something that makes you happy. Whereas filmmakers probably, I haven't interviewed filmmakers, but I would love to carry on that project actually, and interview filmmakers, because I love film. I've really become
I love experiencing it. I love experiencing film. I watch watch Netflix all the time. I love film, but I've got no, although I make little sort of films telling my stories and stuff, in terms of my work, what I want to create and add to the world, it's not about wanting a film, something that moves through time. It's about your brain moves around a picture or moves around a poem, your thoughts. So it's interesting, just the different sort of inclinations of different art forms.
Why people were attracted to that. I think that's the power of the foundation course, isn't it? Because as a part of the foundation, if you miss that aspect, you've missed the opportunity to play in all these things and find the thing that is right for because we all have our own set of tendencies. There are generalized batches, and it depends on which process you go through. I mean, I run a thing called DISC, and that has 4 different personality types, and they're very general. I suppose it's a bit like saying, are you a Capricorn or are you a Leo? It's just a kind of like, and if you are, you have this kind of set of tendencies. Doing a foundation course enables people who are creative to find where their tendencies sit creatively, and then find a place that's kind of aligned with them. I find if I work with artists who haven't gone through the foundation course, I do need to put them back through a bit of a foundation course, And often they come out the other side doing a completely different art form because they realise that they aren't in alignment with what they were doing, and it felt they wanted to be creative, but it wasn't the creative that they output that they were, you know, desiring. So it is fascinating, that whole, you know, as I say, when I'm working with people, helping them develop their career, it's pretty much the same for anybody doing any career. But there are some specifics that you help people with regard to art. One of the big ones for artists is money. They have massive hang-ups around money because they feel sometimes they feel privileged and don't feel they can charge the right price for what they do. Sometimes it's just that they've got so used to not having any money. Sometimes they get this hang-up of, I'm not going to go through galleries because I don't want to pay the 50% commission. I'm like, you know, it's part of the process. So, you know, and energy around money is a big one for artists a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I have all sorts of issues around that. I think like all sorts of personal stuff around around money and notions of success and all that. I think we've all got these kind of hang-ups, you know.
Everybody, not just artists, everybody. Money is just energy. It just allows us, money gives us, I was saying this even to my 23-year-old the other day, I said, money gives you the opportunities and choices, but what it doesn't give you is happiness.
No.
You have to be doing something that's completely aligned with your sole purpose in order to find happiness. It doesn't matter if you've got £1 million or £2 million or £100. That's not going to give you happiness. It will give you.
Absolutely. I agree. It's not an end in itself.
No, it should never be the end in itself. And I have a lot of conversations with artists around money. So we're coming to the end. We've been chatting for an hour.
Sure.
It's been fabulous. I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
It's really flown by.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the experience.
No, I really have.
Good. And most people do really enjoy the experience. I'd really like to know what does the future look like for Ed? What are you dreaming of? What's your kind of wow? That'd be it. That's my thing. Focus on the wow.
Yeah, well, I've at the moment I've got 3 or 4 book projects that I'm taking a lot longer than I usually do over, because I just think they're could be really, really good. And for these book projects to, it sounds a little bit arrogant, but for these book projects to be as successful as I believe they should be, would be amazing. I've got a collection of school stories for the more commercial end of the children's books. I've got a picture book inspired by Hastings, all about the carnival. And I've got a collection of poetry that I'm mostly working on at the moment, bringing together, all linked by the forest, the idea of the forest, where I'm reprinting. I'm going into quite a lot of detail here.
No, that's cool. Because you're manifesting.
I'm redoing a book that sold out called High in the Old Oak Tree, which is, total labour of love. Just grab one, tatty old copy. This one that sold out, and I'm redoing it, and rather than doing it on its own, I'm including it in an anthology of books all about the forest, an anthology of poems all about the forest. And I just think I'm trying to make this book like the best, the most completely immersive, beautiful book of illustrated poetry that I possibly can.
So it's kind of like a legacy project. I used to kind of
a little bit, I suppose. A little bit, and it'll be, and I want to self-publish it, so I've got complete control. But I want to take the quality of my self-publishing really up a level, so it's like a really beautiful professional book that is just completely immersive.
Who are you looking to do the printing of that?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Oh, well, if you have any suggestions, yeah, just
I have some suggestions of that. Let's talk about that
okay.
separate to this. But if you
Yeah,
want to
sure,
go much higher quality, then yeah, having been through
high-ish.
because I went perfect bound.
Yeah, definitely perfect bound. Definitely.
And I was very fussy about
bound.
the quality of paper that I used, and I've got blank pages in here so people can write and draw in. So it's
nice.
more of it's a journal as well as a people can keep notes. So so I had blank pages.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So
it looks really lovely production.
I was very fussy about the quality of the paper, and so I can tell you who I used for that.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Yeah, and that would be sort of September, October that's ready to go, I think. But yeah, that would be really useful.
Yeah, I'll give you the detail.
But I still want it to. I don't want it to be like a total gift book where it has to, where the cost of the retail price is so much that it excludes lots of people. It needs to be good quality, but not like.
And that's the real balance, isn't it? Because
to
get the quality and the cost, you have to go abroad.
Right. Yeah.
To get the quality and slightly higher cost, but the integrity you can do in the UK.
I've looked at a few. Printers. I think I can do it UK.
I would always encourage everyone to try and keep everything in the UK as best as you can.
Yeah.
Especially what we do as an art output. So Peter's saying should be thread sewn as well as perfect bound. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You could
absolutely. Yeah.
see. You're saying that, Peter, and I'm thinking you could go on a course and learn how to sew them yourself, and then you could have a limited edition that were hand sewn by Ed and perfect bound by Ed. You could go on a bookbinder's course and do a limited edition if that was something that kind of excited you.
Possibly, yeah. I think that end of things, mate. I think I've had a bit of a block about that. That's kind of real high-end handmade bookmaking, and I think that's probably a block that I kind of need to get my head around.
Maybe you and I need to have a session.
Yeah, that would be great.
We need to get these blocks sorted, because actually, we hold ourselves back by these limiting beliefs.
We have blocks, don't we? We do have certain things, perhaps. Like I've always had a block about screen printing.
Yeah, Peter was a printer. That's why it's interesting to have this conversation with him. Peter was a printer. He now is a gallerist. And so I think maybe you and he should have a conversation as well. Yes, it would take age and so, but if you did like a limited edition of 10 and they become a sculptural object then.
I think these might be different things. I think the book I've got in mind is From Essex, excellent.
Yes, From Essex.
The book I have in mind, I think the book I have in mind that isn't a beautiful handmade, hand-sewn book, but I think there's other projects and other things that I think really could be, and I could really do with getting my head around that for various other things I've got in the back of my mind.
Oh, maybe we'll have a chat about that later. Yeah, we'll have a chat about that separately. But I do think you would be a good person for, and I'll link the two of you up after this, for you and Peter, because both from Essex, both have an affinity with the printmaking, and he's a gallerist. He's about to open a gallery, hopefully. Tell me if I'm wrong, Peter. So he's got one in Alfriston at the moment, but he's about to open one in Eastbourne. So it was about to happen just before lockdown, but obviously that's kind of like arrested everything. But hopefully for Peter that's all going ahead now after lockdown. Yeah,
definitely.
Lockdown is easy now. And I went to Wing Gallery yesterday and I started rehanging exhibitions yesterday. So we'll be reopening our gallery on Sunday. It's still on, yay! The galleries are reopening, so that's an exciting thing. Obviously, we're going to have to work in a completely different way, but that's okay. Bend like a tree.
Yeah.
So I think a handmade book of poems and illustrations sounds amazing. Yes, Emma. Yeah, so do I.
But, Emma.
As Ed said, this is not this book, it's a different book. Oh, and Emma's originally from Essex as well. Oh, you can have a little posse.
Well, I don't want to exaggerate the Essex connection, because I was only there for kind of 5 years, the first 5 years of my life, which
Born
was
and
bred. And quite recently went back there, which was big nostalgia trip, and was quite surprised how much I remembered. But there we go. Yeah.
It's an invasion. Yes, you're invading us, Peter. Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ed. That has been lovely. Really lovely to understand more about you, more about your process, more about how it all works in your head and in your world. I think that really helps other artists as well in their journey, especially the ones, kind of entering the fray. We've all been in here for a while, so it's always good for them to hear. And also, I think it's lovely for collectors to see the integrity of how these things come about, and in reality. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. No,
much.
I've really enjoyed it. It's gone off in directions that I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that we got a bit philosophical and into things. So that was really good. Liked it.
Yeah, my kids when I'm teaching, so I teach Gold Arts Award at Eastbourne College, and they always say to me, "Yes, you're going too deep." But I love a bit of deep. You've got to dig deep in occasionally.
Yeah.
Going for a bit of a deep dive and find out what's going on. So no, it's been fabulous.
Completely.
Thank you so much. This has been live streamed onto Facebook. Unfortunately today, because of our technical issues, I haven't been able to see who's been watching or answer any questions on Facebook Live. But if you've got any questions for us, you can always find us. And there you are. On the sidebar, you've got Peter's telephone number there.
Brilliant.
Jot that down and give Peter a call. Give Peter a call.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to contact us, just message us through the Pure Arts Group UK Facebook page, or pureartsgroup.co.uk website. And next week is our last one of this first series, and I'll be speaking to Justin McCarran, another local lad, and he does resilience coaching. Do you know Justin? Yeah, local.
A little bit.
And but he's also a performer, so that'll be interesting.
That's how I know of him.
Completely different side of the arts and performance. So tune in. That's the last one. And then on Sunday we are doing at 5 p.m. we're doing our last meditation of the summer season as well, with the beautiful Nadine Searle. So anyone who's interested in that, everything is always published on our Facebook page. You can take a look, and this will be up on our website to watch on the watch page in about 3 hours. My techie is in California right now, so it might take her a bit longer. But she's on it. So it'll be up on the up on our website for everyone to watch back. So thank you again, Ed, and lovely to chamble with you. And chamble. And speak to you again soon, and I'll drop you a note about maybe having a chat otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It's been really nice.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast now for everyone, so we'll disappear off screen. All right, thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lesley.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.